Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. This is WA7YBS, Henry, Dayton Valley, Nevada. And this is the Vintage Military Radio Net. Vintage Military Radio Net is a roundtable AM group. Gives the licensed amateurs the opportunity to run their vintage military radio gear on the air. And vintage military radio gear isn't a prerequisite for checking into the net, check in with what you got. Subject of conversation, though, is generally about vintage military radio gear, collecting, finding, repairing, restoring, operating, all of that sort of stuff. So anyway, we're operating on 3.974 meg, and mode of operation is AM, generally. And so let's see who's out there. Who wants to check in? Be number one. Go ahead now.
DWC. W6 SSP.
Okay, we got Chuck in the number one spot, K0DWC, and in the number two spot is Steve, W6 SSP. Good morning, Chuck. Good morning, Steve. Who'd like to be number three?
U6 out.
Okay, well, we'll just hang out here for a little bit. Chuck, go ahead and make a transmission and turn it back to me, and then we'll see if we can pick up Steve. So K0DWC, WA7YBS.
Okay, Henry. Good morning to you, sir. Sounding good, as usual. And I heard Steve in there. Good morning, Steve, W6SSP. All right. Well, I hope I'm getting over to the Bay Area. I never I've been on low power, but I'm on the amp now. I'm on about 120 watts, so hopefully Steve can hear me over there. But anyway, back to you, Henry, and then you can take it from there. WA7YBS, K0DWC.
Okay, Chuck, K0DWC, WA7YBS. Let's send it over to Steve. How you doing there, Steve? W6SSP, WA7YBS. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to say, Steve. I thought those guys had signed off. Frequency was clear for a while, but they're back. No copy. So I'm going to just sort of stand by. So QRX for a little bit, 5 minutes or so, and we'll see what happens. Chuck, K0DWC, Steve, W6SSP, this is WA7YBX, QRX for 5.
Is this frequency in use, W7MS?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I think they've left the airwaves. I've been listening, and I don't want to step on them because they're resonating rather heavily on 7.5, but just wanted to say good morning. I'll stand by. I think I think my introduction here on the airwaves is appropriate. I think they've signed W7MS.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm getting them pretty good here, but at any rate, let's QRX for, like I say, about 5 minutes, and we'll check back. So WA7YBS will be in the standby mode.
Well, thank you for signing off. Appreciate the open frequency, and my apologies for any of the QRM on your side from us, but thank you much, W7MS. Okay, Henry, the frequency is clear. Officially, we have 3974 as we have had for, 15 or 20 years here on Sunday morning, W7MS.
Well, thank you, Mike. I'll put you in the number 3 spot. And I'm running the W6MIT rig with the linear, so I'm doing about 140 watts, apparently. Well, you know, anyway, appreciate you stepping in there, Mike, and doing your thing. So let's see if there's anybody else out there. We have Chuck, K0DWC in the number 1 spot, and we have Steve, W6SSP in the number 2 spot, and Mike, W7MS in the 3 spot. So let's see if we can fill up number 4. Who'd like to be number 4? Go ahead now.
NU6F.
Okay, got you on NU6F. Real barn burner of a signal in here, doing real well. Let's see if there's a number 5. Number 5 is open. Okay. Well, we Chuck. Good morning, Chuck. In the number 1 spot. And number 2 is Steve, W6SSP. Good morning, Steve. Number 3 is Mike, W7MS. Good morning, Mike. Number 4 is Ron, NU6F. Good morning, Ron. And I'm running the W6MIT 1625 rig, and it's going into the W6MIT linear, and so we're running about 140 watts or so of carrier power. That's a transmitter going to the collinear array for the antenna. We're receiving you on We're receiving you guys on the Hammerland SP600JX21, the military connection. Those were very popular receivers with the U.S. Air Force. So with that, let's turn it up to Chuck and see what's going on there. Temperature this morning was 17 degrees. So K0DWC, WA7YBS.
DWC, well, good morning to you again, and good morning, excuse me, good morning to Steve, and good morning to Mike, and good morning to Ron. I've heard everybody. Steve was a bit difficult, but when I turned on the loop and fired up the R388, and I caught him there on that particular receiver. But I'm running the TCS-14 this morning through the remote, and an SP200 amp that I'm running, and 115, 120 watts. And speaking on through a 217 mic with the electric module in it. So that's my rundown, and I will send it over to Santa Rosa. To Mr. Steve, W6SSP, K0DWC. I hope you can hear me, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay, very good, Chuck. Good morning, everybody. Henry, Chuck, Mark, and Ron. Good group. Good conditions today, which is really unusual here. I've had horrible noise for quite a while, but this week it's calmed down, so it's much better. Nice to be on the radio again. Anyway, using the same old Collins 32V1 transmitter, 85 watts out, and 75A1 receiver, both about 1946, 1947 vintage or so. And I've been having fun this morning on the internet. I've been kind of looking at Collins broadcast transmitters, and one that really caught my eye was the Collins 300G. And the reason I was kind of interested in that one is it uses the same tubes as the transmitter that I've got, and it's a pair of 810s, modulated by a pair of 810s for 250 watts. pretty cool. A lot of similarities between the two, and it's kind of fun to research stuff on that. Anyway, we'll send it over to Mike, W7MS, W6SSP.
Well, thank you, Steve. Let me turn down the side tone here on this device. W6SSP in the Nevada Vintage Military Net. At least that's what I'll call it this morning, W7MS, Mike in Reno. And thanks again for the folks on 7.5 for opening up the frequency here on 3974. But yeah, good conditions once things cleared out. And good morning to you, Chuck. Doing just fine. Steve's doing great. We missed you the last couple of weeks. I know that you had a few weeks ago a ultimate gully washer there with the Pineapple Express that was basically bullseyed on Santa Rosa. So glad to hear you this morning. And hello, Ron. And of course, good morning to Henry, our fearless leader here on 3974. Everybody's doing great. And joining the crowd here, with maybe the exception of Steve, Ron's probably running an afterburner also, but we'll start off with a 30S1 at 250 watts a carrier. And a side note on that is I could probably run a little bit more carrier power, but the way this Tetrode is configured, I start running some pretty heavy negative screen current, which is detrimental to tube life. So about 250 is about my plateau, my knee, my head, my ceiling for power output here. To be safe on AM is not to want to be hot swapping 4CX 1000s or 4CX 1500Bs, but that's the setup. And this is round 2 for the Royal Canadian Air Force RCA Victor Company Limited ATR 11A transmitter receiver, 4-channel auto-tune. And we've got the man-machine interface finished, also known as a remote. And this morning running a different D104 microphone. I noticed on the playback last week, no bass, which may be the way it is with this radio, but I decided to try a different D104 and see what it sounds like on John's playback, if in fact he's not doing anything else in the great state of Georgia this morning. But yeah, things are going fine. Just about got this guy wrapped up. Had to do a plate cap swap on the modulators to get the positive peaks in the positive direction and not run an excessive negative modulation. But that's the setup. 1625, 20 watts out through a 3 dB attenuator, modulated by a pair of 1625s. And the usual generic receiver lineup, 455 IF, the usual tube. So that's the short version. So Ron, are you running an afterburner this morning? NU6F W7MS.
Yes, I must admit, I'm running an afterburner. Yeah, I'm only running about, I got the BC375 down to around 15 watts and driving the 811s, which have no screen, so I don't have to worry about negative screen current. And we're running 150 watts a carrier. And yeah, at this level, with this drive, yeah, the audio looks a lot better. And I got no plate caps to swap on this one. This is foolproof. There's no plate caps on the 211s. It's a great idea. Okay. Well, okay, I'm glad you did that, Mike, because I had to go ahead and turn around in the chair backwards last week because I could tell the left ear was getting something better than the right. But now that you got the plate caps in the right spot, sounds great. Ron, NU6F, Lemon Valley, just north, hooting and hollering the Stones Throw from Mike in Golden Valley, and the BC375, and all original everything, carbon mic, what can I say, and the in-fed long wire. All right, good hearing you guys in there, and yeah, the guys were kind of tail dragging there on the other net, so, well, hopefully we'll have some of the gang show back up, because we need a squirrel report. Okay, back up to Henry, WA7YBS in U6F.
Okay, in U6F, WA7YBS. We have to do a little tweaking. Okay, and that's just to keep the amp happy. And well, good signals all the way around. Everybody's doing quite well in here. Q5 and better. If you couldn't get better than Q5. But yeah, the BC375 plus the amp sounding good, and as it has been for the last few weeks there, Ron. And Mike sounding in. I think this D104 sounds a little better than the last one you used last week. Not a tremendous difference, but a little better. And it's still, it still almost sounds carbony, but it is, I think, better. And of course, the 250 watts really helps. Steve's doing fine. Strongest I've heard Steve in a long time. So the 110 watts or so that you get, I don't know, maybe you're running the 600 volts on the plate of that V, that for the 32V1, and you might only be getting about 80 watts or 90 watts out. But anyway, you got a good strong signal in here, and of course Chuck's just down the road and across the highway, so he's always strong. Let's see if there's anybody else that wants to check in to Vintage Military Radio Net. Number 5 is open. If you want to check in, do it now.
Kilo Echo 6, Quebec, Kilo.
I think that give me the call again on the Kilo Echo. Go ahead again.
Kilo Echo 6, Quebec, Kilo in Fallon. Good morning.
Okay, gotcha. And it's I know who you are, but I can't think of your name off the top of my head. And you're number 5, KE6QK, and Bill is number 6, N6BCT. So good morning to Bill. And let's see if there's a number 7 out there. Number 7 is open. Vintage Military Radio Net. Go ahead now if you want to be number 7. Okay, let me turn it over to KE6QK, and you turn it to N6BCT. And Bill, N6BCT, turn it back to me, WA7YBS. KE6QK, Rich, I think it was. KE6QK, WA7YBS, go ahead.
Yeah, WA7YBS and the group KE6QK. Good morning to all. I don't know if I'm zero beat. That other net got me all confused, trying to zero beat up and down the band here. I hope I'm in your band. Yeah, handles Rich. Hey guys, I apologize for this year. I had medical problems all year. I had 3 medical procedures. I gave up everything, ham radio. I just couldn't manipulate my life here this summer. It was terrible. I'm on the comeback now. I feel much better. I'd like to get back in the net when I can here. It's really good to hear everybody. The signals are great this morning. At least 20 over 9, most people. And we're going to try to get back in the group here this winter. Anyway, I don't want to go on about all my issues at this time, but we're feeling much better, and I'm going to go ahead and continue my life. We had a lot of things happen with the house and the medical, and I just didn't have the mental want to go on the air. I was just taking care of myself. So sorry about that. It's good to hear everybody. N6DCT, KE6QK. Pick it up, Bill. And let me know if I'm zero beat.
Well, I think Bill made a transmission there, and so good morning to Bill, morning to Rich, and good signals. Bill got, not real strong as usual there, Bill, and there's some adjacent frequency activity that kind of was making copy difficult. So let's see if there's a number 7. Vintage Military Radio. Now, if you want to get in on the first round, be number 7. Check in now. Okay, nothing heard, so we'll assume that we've got everybody. Okay, well, let's see. A lot of activity on the band today. I think, Chuck and I were talking about this the other day. And I don't know, 15 years ago when we started this net, there was nobody on Sunday mornings around 3974. I spent 3 weeks scouting around, for frequencies that would work for the net. And so it was, it was pretty good. But I've noticed in the last few years that the 75-meter activity on Sunday morning is getting busy. So what are you going to do? Better selective receivers, but you can't, if you got on-frequency other stations, it's difficult. So anyway, let's see. SP600s, I'm running this one, a pretty good receiver, not too bad. This one is, I've rebuilt 2 or 3 times. Maybe I got it right this time. It seems to be working pretty good. It was, unfortunately, it had, those ones that come from the Pacific Northwest up there around Puget Sound, and then, been stored poorly. That's what this one was. It was the first SP600 I ever got, and I didn't know, about the storage problems until the receiver was setting in front of me, and so it's been a lot of that sort of stuff, replacing parts that were corroded, that sort of thing. But I didn't do that. But at any rate, let's go ahead and of course everybody knows the transmitter that we're using, the W6MIT homebrew 1625s in parallel for the PA and 1625s in push-pull for the audio, and then we're driving the W6MIT linear, which is a Y826, which is sort of like the experimental 3500Z, and we are doing about 130 watts output. With that, over to Chuck, round 2, K0DWC. Go ahead, WA7YBS.
Okay, Henry, WA7YBS, K0DWC. Well, good morning to Rich and to Bill. Rich, it's good to have you back. Sorry that you had your difficulty there during the summer with your medical problems and all, but we're glad that you're feeling well, and welcome back. And Yeah, I wanted to tell Steve too that Steve, you're coming in here. You got a pretty nice signal in the Dayton Valley here this morning, so you're coming through nice and wide. And Mike, I noticed the difference between this D104 and the one you had last week. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I thought the mic you're speaking on now, I thought it was a carbon mic. You know, to me it sounds real carbony, but, you know, that's just me. But anyway, you're sounding good as usual, and that ATR-11A is doing a great job for you, obviously, so great job there, man. And let's see here. Ron, 150 watts with the BC375. And I guess you're running, I don't know if you mentioned the receiver or not. I'm just guessing you're running the BC348, but probably are. But you're sounding fantastic too, real carbon. So great job there. So everybody seems to be doing pretty well. I'm not really, I was able to hear some of Bill, I'd say probably 50%, but that was about it from Bill. But Rich had a nice deep signal, also deep audio, and it's all good. So we'll keep it going, and we'll send it back over to Santa Rosa to Steve, W6SSP, with the 32V1 and the 75A1. Sounding good, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay, Chuck, thank you very much for the report. Always good to be heard. You know, I've done very little of these radios, either one of them, since I restored them, so they just work. And boy, you can't say much better things about any radio than that, so kind of nice to have that and get good reports at the same time. Yeah, and I need to apologize to the sideband guys. I thought they had signed, and I ended up talking over them inadvertently, so if any of them are listening, sorry about that, guys. I'll pay more attention next time. And yeah, Henry, I'm on the 32V1. I'm pretty conservative. I'm running this thing at 115 volts for Variac and 600 volts on the tap with 85 watts out. So it's just conditions today. That's just how things are sometimes. And again, I really enjoyed your article about, your expanded article about SP600s. And in the living room, I only have one communications receiver, and that's an SP600 JX21. And this thing was a major restoration project. Major. Found it locally through Craigslist. It was many years ago. Just when Craigslist first got started. And it's been many years. Next to a leaking garage door. Rain was in it. Bush rats and mice and whatever. They've been dropped on its front panel. Penny moppers, and there was a big bend right almost through the middle of it. It was just in horrible shape, but spent some time on it. It came down beautifully. I even got the front panel found that wasn't hardly solid anymore. So it's one of my prized restorations. And it's surrounded by a bunch of old radios, wood radios, some of which are well over 100 years old now. But that's the only communications receiver in the living room that's allowed anyway. Anyway, good stuff. And Chuck, your TCS sounds good. Everybody sounds really good today. I was barely able to hear K6TK. I could tell he was there, but that was about it. So we'll send it back over to Mike. W7MS, W6SSP.
Well, thank you, Steve. And side tone is getting irritating. And that's because this D104 has fixed gain with an amplifier, aftermarket amplifier. W6SSP, W7MS. Mike and Reno. Well, good reception from all. Great to hear Rich this morning from Fallon. Welcome back. No apologies necessary. And Bill, good morning to you. And yeah, addressing comments on the audio here, I may have shot myself in the foot, and that's on the 1625 modulators. If you go through the 807 data sheets, they highly dissuade you from using cathode bias, but of course in a lot of these simpler devices, they don't use fixed bias, they use cathode bias. But this guy had a 100 ohm cathode bias resistor, so the cathode current was like 120 mils idle. You know, you're talking about super class A probably bias, and I just thought that was too much, so I changed it to 300, which is more in line with the TCS. And I think I may be introducing some THD into the modulator stage, so I may take it back to 100, and that kind of coincides with trying to outsmart the designers of the gear. But I just couldn't believe the 110 mils of idling current on the cathode of the modulators. But of course, one of the hints is, considering it's a 20 watt RF radio, so you need about 10 watts of AF, which is insignificant for a pair of 1625s, but the milliamp meter is 0 to 200 mils. And so mid-scale, or a little bit over mid-scale on cathode current, and a little slight bump on voice peaks, which is probably going to be 10, 15, 20 mils maybe, depending on the inertia of the meter movement. Probably makes sense. So I think that may be one of my issues. So I may be reinstalling the 100 ohm 5 watt wire round cathode bias resistor and see what effect that has. So I may be inducing some of that sweet THD that some of the single-ended audiophile guys just love, say for example with the VT4C 211 tubes. They love that harmonic distortion, so that could be some of the issues here. But everybody's doing well, great to be conservative. Glad to hear the Henry is proud of his SP600. I'm literally was sitting next to my SP600 in the world famous bench ice cream chair, and it was smiling. It was happy to hear the positive, the glass is half full or rather than half empty comments. And there's certainly some empty comments there on the 600, but it's happy. And this guy was obtained from Milton over there in Minden, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, who later, after he had passed away, turned out he was that serious Collins hoarder. And everybody's friend here on the frequency, Brad Hollander Lake, cleaned up. I couldn't believe what, I only saw what he had at the house. And in the secret storage facility there, he was the ultimate Collins hoarder. I wouldn't call him a collector, he was a hoarder. But yeah, comments on the 300G, Steve, if you want to refer back to Wavelength Radio back in the archives, there's a shack visit here at W7MS that features the 300G, and in my old man story on its restoration, and the most interesting part was how it came into my being. But the 300G, yeah, cool. Lives out in the garage, and certainly would not support the floor structure inside the house. But with that, over to Ron, and Ron's sounding great. And aren't we just having fun with this old junk? NU6F W7MS.
Okay, in keeping with the switching microphones, this is the first time I've tried the D104 on the 375. Quick check, Mike. Sound okay, or am I picking up nothing but dynamotor noise?
You sound fine, and you've got some great sound effects for the background.
Okay. Yeah, I could see on the scope. Yeah, I'm picking. I don't need to close talk this one, that's for sure. It ain't carbon. Anyhow, well, good deal, guys. Yeah, this is very pleasant. Armchair copy on everybody, not fighting QRM or too much QSB. Henry, good deal. Now that you can, you've taken that SP600 out of the Hall of Shame, and it can sit proudly with with the rest of your fine restorations. And Chuck, you know, I was going to comment, the TCS seems to be the one radio that likes the Electret mod. I mean, it matches it. It sounds best on that. I've never gotten the Electret mod to sound really good on all of them. But I mean, the TCS is the only one that, yeah, it seems to work best on that one. The other ones, it just doesn't have much range of frequencies. And Steve, haven't heard anything about the landscape battles outside with the trees, and if you ended up having to call in an airdrop of Agent Orange to wipe out everything to satisfy the powers to be, but hopefully the end of that battle. And Mike, okay on Milton of Minden and the ATR. So I guess, like you say, you've had that for quite a while, and like one of these days, and here it is. It's been out there all these years. Who knows how long it was sitting there in Minden and how long in your garage. And hey, the Canucks would be happy to see you've got it back on the air. And yeah, and that's, yeah, like you say, give Steve the rest of the story on your broadcast, Collins Broadcast Radio. Interesting story. Every time I go at 395 and I look over there at the, I look at your old work location, and I think of the power distribution panel that was stored there happily for so many years. And yeah, Rich, glad to hear you're back on the air. Yeah, I know what you mean. When all of a sudden we're taking care of everything in life, and then our health hits us, and yeah, our mind wants to, but our body can't seem to do much of anything. So yeah, it can be discouraging. But glad to see you're back on the air, and yeah, you can find the happy spot again. Speaking of health-wise, I was kind of concerned about Jerry, W6JRY, and I talked to him yesterday, and he's doing okay. The reason he hasn't been on the net is that he's been having real issues with his back and sleeping, and he says he just cannot find a decent position to sleep, and he says instead of being a normal early riser, now he doesn't have, he doesn't get to sleep until late, doesn't get up until late, so he misses much of the net activity. And I also was talking to him about the Pearl Harbor Day museum ship stuff. I would have been on the TDE, but I've got it all set up on 20 meters, and I was hoping to work a couple of the museum ships, the Wisconsin, the Alabama, and of course the Iowa were all supposed to be on the air. They had stuff posted, but nope. I even listened on the SDRs back in their areas. They were not on the military frequencies they said they were going to be on. And I did see that the Wisconsin looks like, I checked on one of the spotters, and it looks like they were stuck. They were just on the ham band, so I'm going to go down there on CW. But it was kind of cool yesterday was that I hardly ever have used a TDE on 20 because it just, CW didn't sound that good, and it drifted. I don't know what happened, but it sounds great on 20 meters. I'll start using it more often up there. Nice clean note, minimal drift after about an hour or two warming up, so that much was good. But I'm going to try again after the net, see if I can catch the Alabama or the Wisconsin, and at least get another one of the Pearl Harbor celebration. All right, guys, I guess with that, I am going to hand it over to Rich in Fallon, KE6QK, NU6F.
NU6F and the group KE6QK. Well, I'm going to drop a bombshell now. I'm going to drop a bombshell on you guys. Very, very interesting. I built this house in 1995. Brought all my junk up here from a sack of tomatoes and all my ham equipment. Jumping back in reference to the SP600JX, I think you have it, Mike. That SP600JX, that's my receiver. That was my receiver. And I'll tell you the history of it. Back in the 1964, I was a Russian intercept operator in Turkey. And I was on the Black Sea Air Force Base. And I got orders out of there. And I was a ham bone. We could never do any hamming during the Cold War over there. But the United States Air Force, to get rid of their old equipment, they had a sale on base. And I went down there, and lo and behold, the military changed over to R390s, R390As, and they had all these SP600s there. And I can't remember what I paid the Air Force for it, but they were happy to get rid of it instead of giving it to the Turks or shipping it back to the States or throwing it away. So they were selling it to the airmen and the farmers there. I picked up the SP600JX and sent it back with my household goods. I had to spend a short tour in Africa working the same Russian fleet at the time, but I had the SP600. Long story short, the thing ended up dragged to the Bay Area, dragged to Sack of Tomatoes, dragged to Nevada. I was up here, and I can't think of his name. I'm going to go back after this ESO, the next go-around, and get his name. But that Collins collector, he was in the Navy where I met him. He was an ET, and he was collecting all these Collins gear, and he came up to visit. He said, what's that old JX doing? Oh, man, I bought that years ago. I don't have any room for it here in the shack. It's just on the shelf. So I guess he gave me $50 for it or something and hauled it off to Minden. And I never heard from it since. But it was in 1964 or 5, it was like brand new. It operated great. Stayed on the shelf in the barn. It was so heavy, and I was into my heat kit equipment, so I just sat there until it was purchased. And going around the horn, what do you know? It ends up in northern Nevada still. And I didn't know he passed away. But I'm going to go back and look up on the next go-around and give you any information. Mike, your audio is no bass, but it's very communications quality, very good. I like to hear it. No stereo bass in there. We don't need it here. Sounds very good. And as far as the rig, I'm having some equipment problems. You know, the stuff gets old again. I'm using the DX100. The VFO is jumping around a little bit. Had a little hard time zero beating, with the religious net on there. I was going back and forth. The VFO is jumping. I'm going to have to stabilize that. I'm not using the 75S1. After 1 year, I've got a receive problem. The sensitivity dropped down. I couldn't figure out what component's doing it, so it's on the shelf. I'm using the IC7300 as a receiver here in the interim till I can figure out what's wrong with the Collins. Anyway, thank you very much. I'll be back in. I turn 78 years old next month, and I'm feeling better. The bench here is set up again. rebuilt my pace machine. That thing went down. And, you know, being in the old equipment, our stuff goes down. Okay, so I have to build up the test equipment so I can work on the equipment. Anyway, I'm holding it too long. I'm going to go get that information on the SP600JX. Bill, N6BCT, and the group, KE6QK Felon, pick it up.
Okay, Bill. Stand by just a minute. Okay. And very good copy. That time, Bill, Q5. So doing good. Rich, also, you got a little bit of a fade there for a little bit on you, but it was nothing. It cleared up almost immediately. So DX100's doing good, and okay on the SP600. Yeah, you never know on those, you know, because the first, you know, ones made and before 1954-55 or so have these really crummy. Made by Cornell Dubilier. They're molded paper capacitors, you know, plastic encapsulated type things like Black Beauties. And they, you know, Hammerman did use Black Beauties also, but they really liked using these gray-bodied ones that were made by Cornell Dubilier. And those capacitors are like, you know, fragments of microholes. They're just about as bad. But anyway, almost all of the ones made in 59, 52, 53, you've got to replace those caps. And of course, this one was one of those, you know, it was made in 53, so it had the tubular plastic capacitors in it. And so, anyway, those things are really crummy. They leak so badly that they burn up resistors that are associated with them. So, you know, it's a SP600s are, you know, they're an okay receiver. They're a good receiver. It's just that there's a lot of maintenance issues that need to be taken care of. And then, of course, frequency-wise, well, you know, that's kind of the thing. And just, you know, it's kind of the standard of the time. Anyway, very good on yours that you had. And its history. Interesting. And let's see. Let's go ahead and do the 73 route before the conditions go all together. And so 73 route and over to Chuck, K0DWC, WA7, YBS.
Okay, Henry. WA7 YBS, K0DWC. All right. Well, yeah, Bill was 100% copy that time. And acknowledged his 92 years. That's wonderful, Bill. Keep it up. Keep it up. And Ron, thanks for the report on Jerry. I was starting to wonder about him, and you know, I didn't know if he was, you know, still helping his son out over there, or what was going on. I hated that his back's bothering him. That's awful. But anyway, at least he's up and around, I guess. So thanks for that report on Jerry and Sharon over there. And Yeah, Henry, you know, Mike amongst the Cornell Dublers, Daddy, when he was in during the Korean conflict. He didn't go to Korea. He was stationed at the Canal Zone, but they worked on BC 611s and SCR 536s and BC 1000s. And I remember him telling me that they always had to replace the micro molds in the stuff they were working on, and they replaced them with Cornell Dublers. I guess that's trading bad for bad. But I don't know. I guess evidently, I guess a tropical climate or something down there. I guess that's got something to do with it. But I distinctly remember him telling me that. And that was I don't know. He was down there from 1950 to 53, yeah. So, but anyway, that was kind of goofy. But, all right, guys, I'll say my 7-3s, and I'll be in up control next weekend. And I'm going to try to give you a buzz this afternoon. And the rest of you guys have a good day today and a good week ahead. And we'll talk to you next weekend. So. With that, I'll say 7-3s and send it over to Steve, W6SSP in the group, K0DWC. 7-3s, guys.
Okay, 73, Chuck, and TCS sounds really good. And say hello to Carly, who's probably in the background there. And, yeah, Henry, about the SP600s and those hand-body capacitors, I'm looking at yeah, the only one I have in the Roosevelt cabinet, and it had those capacitors in the body device, and I found others that had the Black Beauties, and of course the best ones to go right back in the US side of that. I think I've got a couple of them here somewhere. They're all wrapped, so I can't even tell anymore which is which. Oh, well, funny games. And very good, Mike, on the 300G. Cool. Hey, if you can, could you send me a link to that page? Don't send me the article with pictures. Just send me the link. I'd appreciate that. Really interested in taking a look at that. Not that I'll ever find one, so it's kind of neat to keep up on this stuff. And let's see, to answer a couple questions. Yeah, you know, we did have a lot of rain there for a while. I'm just north of Santa Rosa. The Russian River is due west of me here. And when we get storms, they come right up the Russian River. And in 3 days, we got a little over 16 inches of rain, which is quite a bit for this area. Creek behind me was out of its banks quite a ways, but didn't flood our backyard, which is a good thing. Never has in 36 years. It's come close, but not quite. And the landscaping. The Vegetation Abatement Police still dealing with that. It's been over a year, and kind of frustrating about this whole thing. But, the inspector's actually a pretty good guy. He knows I've been struggling with it, and he actually got a group of about 6 guys together, firemen that were kind of taking a break after fire season. Yeah, 6 guys for 3 hours here, and they basically cleared up the front yard. So what they would really do, they're not happy about that at all. But they chipped everything, and apparently the front yard is okay. That's only 20% of the property. The backyard is bushes. So starting this spring, I've got to deal with that again. It's probably going to go on for another year. Hopefully they're not going to clear cut the backyard. I'll be really upset. But it doesn't have anything to do with radio. But you guys asked, so I thought I'd mention it. So what else? Mike, yeah, we're on Microsoft. So I think you're aware of that now. I think that's it for me. I say 7-3. Hope to see you all next weekend. And I'll send you over to Mike. W7MS, W6SSP.
Okay, well, thanks, Steve. Doing a quick unmodulated check on frequency here. I'm still in the confidence building mode on this device. W6SSP, W7MS. And one of the reasons is just the mechanical faceted auto-tune, or RCA's version of auto-tune, which uses these aluminum discs with a notch that activates the roller on the leaf switches. But there's a certain plus or minus mechanical accuracy, and you can jiggle it. Or I'm just kind of curious how it sits over time, whether it's a mechanical drift, so to speak, or in the electron mode, which would be mechanical also, but on a much molecular level. But it's hold tight, or close enough for amateur radio. Well, still great reception from all. Fine Rich on the, you're going to dig through the archives, but this specific SP600 had a National Bureau of Standards asset tag. It actually was so old-fashioned that it was a brass tag that had been punched with the asset number, and that's, in fact, I'm looking for it. I did remove it from the front panel because it was kind of annoying to look at, but it should be in and about the cabinet here somewhere. But it's National Bureau of Standards back before NIST, so an old-timer, but probably not the same one, but maybe it's the same person, because knowing Milton, he may have had even more SP600s than Steve. He may have had a couple of dozen hidden away back in the storage facility that I was unaware of. We'll stand by for further updates, and a great story there on the history of the Cold War and the surplus sale in Turkey, which of course is back in the news here as of the last week or two. And if anybody's wise to the trip, if he's still alive, there may be a former dictator who's going to be reapplying for his old career as a dentist somewhere in maybe the United Kingdom, but I think that's a long shot. But let me see. Thanks for the comments, and I think I am going to go back and revisit the cathode bias resistor, because again, trying to be smarter than the designers of the equipment. And I can certainly waste 110, 120 mils of cathode current and heat up the radio. It's a minor issue, but certainly I thought I was smarter. But then again, it may have no effect. And maybe I am being Energy Star compliant by increasing the grid bias and reducing the idling current on the modulator stage. But that's blither blather. Great on the on the other 600 comments. And Steve, we'll take care of that. Give you the information. And I think with that, I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but whatever I've forgotten, I'm sure Ron can remind me of here on his 73 rounds. So, good morning, Ron, with the great sidebar sound effects, NU6F, W7MS, and thanks, Henry.
Okay, here I am. Well, I'm back on the carbon because I don't know what it sounded like on the D104, but boy, I could sure see it on the scope that I didn't have to talk, and you could hear the dynamotor. You could probably even tell me which bearing needs a little bit more oil than the other, or the one brush that's making a little noise. And okay, Mike, on the, like you say, 110 milliamps, I'd look at that too, and look at that plate meter saying, gee, where's all that current going? There must be a problem here. But like you say, we're in the Energy Star mode. Back in those days, well, what the heck, the dynamotor can take it. Why worry about it? And, and all you guys talking about the SP600s, I'm not even going to mention. I've never had one. I know. Yeah, I'm just asking for, and there's, I don't know what I'd have to do. I'm going to have to be like Mike and start stacking radios up, because up to the elevation of 5 feet, there is no space, so it's going to have to be rack-mounted and rolling around like W7MS. And cool, Rich, on the rest of the story on the SP600 Turkey, and Bill, 92 years old. Wow. I got 17 years to go to get there. And no one in my immediate family made it that far, so it's good you can still get down to the basement, fire up the radio, hit the mic button. You're doing good. And let's see what else I had here. A couple of things. Steve, okay, well, okay on half the battle with the vegetation abatement, but it could be worse. There's no radio abatement, so I mean it could be a lot worse. Lose the trees, keep the radios. And Chuck, okay, yeah, we're taking out the old caps, replacing with the Cornell Doublers, replacing bad for bad. I don't know if bad for worse or whatever, but one or the other. And yeah, not too much else here going. I have to say, other than I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to see if I can work any of those other ships here before I take off later to church. But then, oh yeah, the other thing, Henry, I have been listening and transmitting on 630 meters this week, and so all I'm doing is, yeah, just picking up different beacons from different guys. I have a very consistent good signal into that northern Utah SDR, but I have yet to find another SDR that actually is receiving decent on 630. And I haven't heard back from Andy to see if we could do a sched, but I'm going to keep trying. All right, guys. Thanks for all the encouragement, and hope to see you guys again this next week. With that, over to Fallon. I'll be headed over your way later this afternoon, headed up to Lovelock. KE6QK and the group, NU6F, 73s, and listening for the final.
Yeah, NU6F and the group, KE6QK. Well, I'll try to make it fast. The band is still holding in. Everyone's beautiful here. Wow, good morning. The history on that, the gentleman name was Clinton Hancock. Kilo Delta 6 Hotel. He came up from, sold his house to Sunnydale, had a lot of money. I remember going down to Johnson Lane out there in the desert. Built a nice house. In his garage, he had a fuckload of Collins equipment. And he visited me up here and saw the SP600JX. He wanted it, so I let it go. Probably about 1996, 1997, Mike. It was a pretty good radio, but like I said, I didn't have huge. I didn't have a lot of room at the time for it. And, that's the story on that. I don't know if Clint, is still with us or not, but he's was a Collins collector, and that's the history of that. I later converted to aviation. The Charlie Whiskey days were over with the National Security Agency. I changed rates, just became an aviation electronics technician, and we started flying and stuff. But in 1964, when I went to boot camp, they gave you a test for Charlie Whiskey. They would set everyone up and they say, okay, dot it is A and dit da is A. And I want all you guys to write down when you hear that. That was the test. Well, I aced it. And when they asked me, I said, well, hell, I've been a ham since I was 11 years old. I'm doing 26s right now. So I became an instructor, It was kind of a weird story. Then later on, the CW1OA, I said, well, I want to be a techie. So that's that story. I'll be up, I'll try to get up next week. Really good to be back. I'm feeling better. Right now, I've got a 32X1 here. We got the cap kit in. The pace machine's working. We'll probably start on the caps on that one when I get done here. And the 75 S3, that's just on the shelf. That's a hard one to find in the receiver. I trying to troubleshoot through that to find out where that signal drops down 3 dB. I don't know. So we'll get to that eventually. We'll talk to you next week. And Bill, good to hear you on. Congratulations on your 92 years. N6BCT in the group, KE6QK 73s. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, Bill, N6BCT, WA7YBS. Well, very good. Everybody held in there all the way through. So that's good. Conditions holding up. Well, thanks everybody for your participation in the Vintage Military Radio Net. It's appreciated. Chuck will be in net control next week. Hope to hear everybody back. And with that, we're going to say 73 to all, and we're going to close the net down. See you, YBS, and I'll be signing 73.